الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلاة ربي وسلامه ورحمته وبركاته على هذا النبي الكريم نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue in the chapter of Bab. I forgot the date. It's today officially, or in accordance with the Gregorian calendar, is now Sunday, April 1st. I think everybody's recognizing how fast time is passing by very fast. To the point where there's only approximately maybe 45 days of Ramadan left, maybe 45, 46. As we continue in this tremendous book on the date of Rajab, which is the 14th of Rajab, or technically I think it's the 15th, 9th of Rajab, 1439 after the Hijrah of Mustafa alayhi salatu wasalam, in accordance with the Hijri calendar. 8:17 p.m. We continue in the lesson of the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah. We were stopped at the chapter where it says Bab man tabarrak bi shajaratin aw hajarin aw nahwihima. You showed them though? You should know where we are. We in the chapter we resumed the chapter of the one who seeks blessings by a tree or a rock or anything similar to it. We all concluded, and we talked about the three major idols in which the people used to what? They used to magnify and glorify and consecrate. And they used to worship those three idols in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself named in his book in Surah An-Najm, condemning them and humiliating them and exposing how they have no benefit for the creation as far as any type of effect in one's life, whether it be of benefit or harm. As all those ayats, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah An-Najm, if you look in the context in which we will conclude right now, because we want to start in the hadith, in which you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says Surah An-Najm after he established a tremendous affair in regards to his messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, how he rose and took the Prophet ﷺ up, and we know he alayhi salatu wasalam saw what no man had seen, in which he sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw of the major signs of Allah ta'ala, in which it says in Surah An-Najm. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about this event that took place and it transpired with the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, if you look in the ayat in Surah An-Najm, the first page, it says وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى عند سدرة المنتهى عندها جنة المأوى إذ تغشى السدرة ما تغشى ما زاغ البصر وما طغى وَلَقَدْ رَآ مِنْ آيَاتِ رَبِّهِ الْكُبْرَى. So if you notice in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about when the Prophet ﷺ had seen the lotus tree, and he alayhi salatu wasalam also looked into paradise and seen what no human being has seen. The point of the matter of why, if you look in the context of these ayat, if you look in Surah An-Najm, you open the Mus'haf and you turn to Surah An-Najm, what is the actual munasaba? What is the occasion or the meaning of why? In the context, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this first. Then directly after that, he mentions these ayat in the chapter. After Allah ta'ala established this matter of this great event that took place in regards to his messenger, that he's seen from the greatest signs of his Lord, then Allah started condemning those idols. In your book, أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى. Excuse me, I'm sorry. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى. That was right. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى وَمَنَاةَ الثَّالِثَةَ الْأُخْرَى أَلَكُمُ الذَّكَرُ وَلَهُ الْأُنْثَى تِلْكَ إِذًا قِسْمَةٌ ضِيزَى إِنْ هِيَ إِلَّا أَسْمَاءٌ سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِنْ سُلْطَانٍ إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. To the end of the ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book. You'll find that it says, and if you skip down a little bit, where it says, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ مِنْ رَبِّهِمُ الْهُدَى. That's it. I'm sorry. No. For all the ayats, we read from 1 all the way down to maybe 18. That whole context is in connection to what we're talking about here, which I'm about to say right now. So it says in the ayah, I'm sorry everyone. It says, وَكَمْ مِنْ مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ أَنْ يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ يَرْضَى. And it says in the ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the conditions of the shafa'ah. After, the clock is ringing. The clock is ticking. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about this tremendous affair which had taken place, of when He showed His Prophet the major signs of His Lord, then Allah started condemning these idols, these 3 idols which is mentioned in the chapter. Why is everyone? What's the occasion? What's the connection? The connection, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, is basically showing this is the case with His messenger in which he seen of the greatest of matters and the greatest of signs of His Lord, in which none of these idols can do. Nor does any of these idols possess. Nor do they have any paradise, nor do they have any signs, nor do they have anything great about which your Lord has and which He showed His Prophet. So you'll find that's the occasion of why the ayats are connected in regards to condemning those idols, which is written in the chapter. So you see the connection in which we're talking about now of why the ayats was mentioned in this context. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone, so far? Clear? I'm about to call him Yusuf. Abdullah? No, I'm sorry. Sufyan. So keep your focus on the book, Sufyan. Give you guys a comfortable more chair to sit in. Sufyan, just focus. So, in those contexts, you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the idols, what signs do they have? In which He showed His messenger. Who? From the angels in which you find in the first part of the ayat, in which Allah ta'ala also talked about the angel Jibreel. In the first part of the ayat, that when the Prophet ﷺ seen him, seen Jibreel, in which he seen him alayhi salatu wasalam in different forms, because we know Jibreel had different forms in which he came in, alayhi salam. Right, everyone? As we know, Jibreel came in which the Messenger of Allah saw him in his original true form, in which Allah created him, until his wings had what? Cover up the whole, or his wings cover up the whole horizon. He said, "Qad sadd al-ufuq," as it says in the narration, that the Prophet ﷺ saw Jibreel in his true form, which Allah created him. He said, in which the wings of Jibreel had covered and enveloped all of the horizon, the whole sky. Then we know that Jibreel had also came in different forms, in which he came in the form of the great Sahabi Dihya al-Kalbi. Dihya al-Kalbi. And we know that Dihya al-Kalbi was very handsome. And Jibreel had came in a form in which you'll find that he was similar to what? Dihya al-Kalbi likewise. Also likewise you'll find in the hadith of Jibreel, similar to what we just mentioned. And that we formed when he came to the Messenger of Allah asking the questions, in which he was confirming them, and the Prophet ﷺ found it strange. He says, Sadaqt. So the Messenger of Allah found that what? He's asking the question, but the Sahaba were amazed. So how is he confirming what the Messenger of Allah is saying to him, and he's the one asking the question? Until we know that Jibreel alayhi salatu wasalam, the Messenger of Allah saw him as it pertains to these ayats in your book, if you see it. And also likewise when the Messenger of Allah seen those tremendous signs of his Lord, in which none of those idols that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala condemned has whatsoever. There's no angels that they have that in which they come back to their Lord, and Allah ta'ala commands them, and they obey His commands. None of those idols have that. Also likewise, from the signs of the Lord of His Prophet ﷺ had seen from the signs of his Lord, in which also likewise these idols do not have. So then when Allah ta'ala condemned these 3 idols in His book, you'll notice that the mu'allaf in your book, what we said in the previous lesson, what do we say, everyone? That the author put these ayats in this book, or in this particular chapter, condemning the affair of seeking blessings by certain what? Certain graves, certain rocks, certain trees, and even domes that is put on top, or huge raised structures that is put on top of the grave, in which you'll find in these days and times where Muslims are touching and feeling, and even taking some of the dirt as souvenir and taking it home, seeking blessing by. So we talked about that previously. We said, now the question which we're going to talk about, inshallah, is it polytheism to now touch something? Let's just say for now this wall right is in front of us. I have the i'tiqad. If I have the i'tiqad that wall can benefit me or harm me in some certain type of way, is that polytheism? No. Absolutely. Ahsantu. Jay. That made me happy. So now if I go to this wall and I start touching it, I'm feeling my body. I'm so-called doing what, everyone? Trying to seek blessing by it. Right? I want to seek blessing by it. طيب. Is this action that I'm doing polytheism or not? Jay. It is. طيب. Now, is it major polytheism or minor polytheism? That is going to come, that detail in the hadith, which we're going to talk about, in which will happen to the Sahaba, in which they asked the Messenger of Allah. But you'll find that the great Imam, Sheikh Muhammad Amal Jami, he had put just a little clarification on the statement of the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab in regards to whether or not did they apostate or not, which you'll find in one of the Masail that's mentioned in your book. Don't worry, we're going to come to inshallah. طيب. Those idols, quickly, we just mentioned and said, number one, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do you see أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتِ? We said Lat was who? Either upon one tafsir, it means what? A man who was righteous. Right, everyone? He was a man who was righteous, who used to feed that type of sumun or sawiq. We talked about in the last lesson, which the meaning of sawiq, that type of food that was given to the Hujjaj that used to come in order to perform Hajj. And we said that it used to belong to Bani Thaqif, which is close to Ta'if, if not, it was in Ta'if. We said Ta'if to this day exists. And it's a famous place which is close to Mecca. In which, like we said, during the time and during the summer, you'll find that a lot of the ulama travel there because the weather is very beautiful during the summertime in Ta'if. But at any rate, like we said, the first idol of Al-Lat, based upon one tafsir, we said it was what, everyone? It was a righteous individual, a righteous man. Until, like we said, when he died, that the people started to devote towards that particular place where he used to feed the pilgrims who used to come to make Hajj. Until, like we said, it was taken as a place of worship where the people used to what? Go towards and try to draw close or direct worship to. And we said that the meaning of Lat was what, Sufyan? The second one is, focus. The second one is, what was it, everyone? It was a rock. The second one they say it was a rock. There was a rock that was smooth and it was amlas, and like we said, it was kabir, amlas. It was also, I think when it comes in the narration, abyad. It was white and it had nuqush. And it had those carvings in it. And like we said, it was also taken as a place of worship. If not, and like we said, I'm sorry everyone, to tie everything together, I apologize. That same place where the rock and the man was taken as a place of worship. How is it tied into the title of the chapter? Because when they used to go to the rock, they would try to what? Take it as a place of worship where they used to either idolize it by either making dua to it or sacrificing for it, or likewise touching it, seeking blessing by it, which is connected exactly with the chapter, as we said last lesson, right, everyone? The reason why I keep being repetitive with a lot of these affairs is because they're very important. And I'm going to make sure that everybody understands this. Once we have this basis down, this concrete or foundation, deep-rooted in ourselves, then we can move on to other things. طيب. So upon this, the tafsir of this ayah that means a rock, that is exactly what agrees with the title of the chapter, where it says what? That seeking blessing by a rock or a tree or anything similar to it. طيب. We also mentioned about what, everyone? Al-Uzza, right, everyone? We talked about Al-Uzza and how Al-Uzza was also located where, everyone? It was also close in a place, close to Mecca, no doubt. And it had in it was close by those 3 trees in which we mentioned, or those by Nakhla, in which, like we said, the Prophet ﷺ sent Khalid ibn Walid to destroy it, to demolish it, have it disseminated, and totally what? Eradicated, demolished, finished. Just playing with you. طيب. So when Khalid ibn Walid, like we said, when he came there, all the tribe that was around flee to the hills. And Khalid ibn Walid went back to the Messenger of Allah ﷺ until what? He said, Lam tasna' shay'an. You didn't do anything. Until Khalid ibn Walid went back again and found out, like we said, there was a woman who was naked and her hair was spread out and she was looking very strange. Until Khalid ibn Walid, like you said, he took out his sword and he killed the woman and said, and the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, when he returned back to him, and said, that was Uzzah. That truly reality was Uzzah. That was the idol. I mean, the woman who was naked and her hair was what? Spread. You'll find, like we said, this is also from the signs of the hour that's going to come later on, inshallah, as we'll discuss. He says, where there will also be idols that will come later in that particular land again, where the day and hour will be established, where this type of actions will be brought back to life again. Women who are idolizing or worshiping idols, running around it or making tawaf, or circumambulating around it, or going around it naked. That this will happen again. And these are from the affairs of Jahiliyyah, from the affairs of pre-Islamic ignorance that the Prophet ﷺ wiped out. طيب. So we said Uzzah. If you'll notice that all these different idols that we mentioned, all of them had custodians, people to watch over it, maintain it, and it had a big curtain. And some of them had, like we said, custodians to watch it and maintain it and upkeep it. So all these idols were what? Destroyed. And the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, during the time of Fath Mecca, which was the last idol, which was Manat. We talked about that last lesson likewise, right everyone? And we said Manat was called Manat because either because a lot of sacrifices were offered to that particular idol. And blood used to be shed, or not bloodshed as far as human beings, but as far as those animals, they used to be sacrificed as drawing close to that particular idol, which was Manat. So that's what they either said, number one, لِكَثْرَةِ مَا يُمْنَى يعني من إراقة الدماء. هذا هو المراد بالآية هنا في هذا الموضع بالذات أن المراد لكثرة ما يمنى من إراقة الدماء, due to the amount of blood that used to be shed out of offering sacrifices to that particular idol. That was one of the tafsirs of the meaning of Manat, as we said, right everyone? We said that last lesson, right? Then the second one is also, we mentioned it said that it was a female name that was flipped and derived from Allah, from one of his names, which is Al-Mannan. Allah Ta'ala is called Al-Mannan. That's from his names, meaning the one who bestows the ni'mah or the blessings upon his ibad. So they flipped the name from Mannan and they turned it into Manat. So you'll find that all these different names in which the polytheists had came, you'll notice in these ayats, all of them are female names. You'll find that they call it Lat. Instead of Allah, they call it Lat. Instead of Uzzah, instead of A'az or Aziz, they called it Uzzah. And instead of Mannan, they flipped it and made it a female and called it what? Manat. Right, everyone? J. Notice in the ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now goes on to say and condemn them, because we talked about a couple of lessons ago. What did we say, ya ma'ashal ikhwa? During the time of the Arab, especially during the time, not only with the Arab, but those days, generally, men used to prefer what? They used to prefer males over females. They used to prefer the males over the females. Not only just with the Arab, but a lot of other particular places. And a lot of different people, especially from Furs and also from Rum. As we know, they were also the ones that were from the dominant people who dominated the majority of the lands at that particular time. It was Rome and it was Persia, as we know. And all of them used to likewise prefer what? They used the males over the what? Females. Because the males were known to what? Known for strength and might and to go out and fight and to do things that were what? Considered bravery and honor and chivalry to the end of it. Where in regards to the women, they were just utilized just for mere pleasures or mere, if you want to say, a place of like a toy almost. And out of fear that they would bring disgrace to the family because of some type of evil she would commit that would bring honor and disgrace to the family. So, notice in the ayah, Allah Ta'ala says, Allah has females while you have the males. Then it says in the ayah, if you look in your book, it's not in the book right now, but it's in the Quran. It says, this is a tilka idhan qismatun dhiza. This type of distribution that you came with, even yourselves, you don't accept it. So it's oppressive. You don't even accept it with yourself. So why is it that Allah Ta'ala has something that you and yourself don't even accept? You don't even like them females. So why would you give it to Allah Ta'ala? Tilka idhan qismatun dhiza. Then Allah Ta'ala in here illa asma'un sammaytumuha antum aba'akum ma anzalallahu biha min sultan. That Allah Ta'ala says your names just merely your forefathers called them. That Allah Ta'ala sent down with no sultan. We said sultan here in this particular context means dalil, hujjah. Means evidence, proof. Right, everyone? That was the first meaning we gave of the meaning of sultan. A sultan can mean hujjah or dalil. And also likewise, hujjah can mean what, everyone? It can also mean qudra. It can mean ability or capability. And we also said that it can mean what? The one who has the true authority or jurisdiction of power to either command or restrain something or forbid something. So it can mean all those meanings according to its context of how it's used. According to the context of how it's used. But here in this ayah, if you look in your books, that Allah sent down, I don't think the ayah is in everyone's book if I'm not mistaken. I don't think it's there. That Allah Ta'ala, if you just look in the Mus'haf, let me go to the Mus'haf. Inshallah, I'm going to try to get everyone acclimated towards going to the Mus'haf and trying to familiarize with looking at the ayat. Before the ayat that I mentioned in your books, look at the ayat that's before or the ayat that's after. As this will bring a lot of clarity in helping you with a lot of meanings in regards to understanding the ayah properly and also giving you more benefit. Also getting more and attaining more benefit. So it's not just sticking to the ayat that you see in the book, but if you read it a little bit more of the ayat that came before or the ayat that came before and the ayats that come after, it will also aid one to understand the ayat more properly and he will gain more insight and more benefit. Is it clear what I'm saying so far, everyone? Type. So that's the reason why I branched off a bit to talk about the ayats a little bit before it and the ayats that came after it. If you notice, even in the context of the ayah in the Mus'haf, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ لَيُسَمُّونَ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تَسْمِيَةَ الْأُنْثَى. It says in the ayah. We'll talk about that later on. He said, those who don't believe in the hereafter, those who do not believe in the hereafter, that they call the angels with the names of females. Because it says in the ayah. It said in there, Jamal? No. So, you'll find in these ayat, in which Allah Ta'ala also mentioned in the same context about the shafa'ah. All the conditions that are mentioned, that's also mentioned in the same context. We'll talk about that in the chapter of the shafa'ah, because that's going to come in Kitaab At-Tawheed. So we concluded that in regards to those three reasons of why Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah, why did he use these particular ayat as evidences and proofs in regards to how it agrees precisely with the chapter, or the heading of the chapter. How is it, everyone? Because like we said, in regards to the rocks or the idols that was worshipped besides Allah or along with Allah, that they were set out and what was directed towards it is worship. From that is seeking blessings by those particular idols, in which the polytheists during the time of the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Whether it be just merely or slaughtering for it, because that's also what they used to do for it. They used to slaughter and offer those sacrifices. Also, they used to even make nadr, which is another chapter which we'll talk about inshallah, that's to take an oath to it. And they used to also likewise touch it. And some of them also used to eat some of their deities. They would worship it and then eat it. And we'll talk about that also at a later time. But at any rate, these are some of the things that shaitan that he decorates for the people. And you'll find, like we talked about, every time and every place, shaitan allows people to fall into certain things that are very, very deeply strange. طيب. In the next ayah, or in the next hadith, in the next text, as we continue, ma'ash al-ikhwa, is on the authority of Abi Waqid al-Laythi. It says, خرجنا مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى حنين ونحن حدثاء عهد بكفر وللمشركين السدرة يعكفون عندها وينوطون بها أسلحتهم يقال لها ذات أنواط فمررنا بسدرة فقلنا يا رسول الله اجعل لنا ذات أنواط كما لهم ذات أنواط فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الله أكبر. Read your books. I'm sorry for no. الله أكبر إنها السنن قلتم والذي نفسي بيده كما قالت بنو إسرائيل لموسى اجعل لنا إله كما لهم آلهة قال إنكم قوم تجهلون إن هؤلاء متبر ما هم فيه وباطل ما كانوا يعملون لتركبن سنن من كان قبلكم رواه الترمذي. طيب. The narration where it comes to speaking about Abu Waqid al-Laythi. It says that we left with the message of Allah ﷺ to Hunayn. We know Ghazwa to Hunayn was an expedition and a battle, which was about after the conquest of Mecca. After the conquest of Mecca. Fathu Mecca. After the conquest of Mecca, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ set out on an expedition or battle, which the number of the people who participated in it was 12,000. 12,000. 12,000 Musa. 10,000 from Mecca, 2,000 from Al-Madinah. And all of them participated and shared to go out with this expedition with the message of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, until we know, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, that they said the statement. A lot of the Sahaba who were on this expedition with the message of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam just left off disbelief, and they just embarked upon, and they also came to Islam. So they basically were new, or if you want to say, like we say, a new shahada. You understand, everyone? It was a new shahada. So, when they went out on this expedition, they also said, لن نغلب على لن نغلب أو لا يغلب علينا ولن نغلب ولن نغلب لأننا لسنا من قلة. Well, he said that we will not be defeated due to our huge number that we have. It was 12,000. So it says in the narration, what everyone? It says in this particular narration what happened. When they had said the statement, لن نغلب اليوم من قلة, that we will not be defeated due to small number, meaning that we're huge. So how can we be defeated? Until Allah Ta'ala, like we said in this book, had said and gave the reality that victory only comes from Him subhanahu jalla fil ula. You understand, everyone? And that it comes from Him, and that one is not amazed at their numbers and the quantity that they have, or the huge quantity that they possess. Tafaddal. What happened? No, he's just calling you there. How old are you, Hussein? How old are you? How old are you? You're 5 or 4? 5. Okay. 5. Shalla la ilaha illallah. Shalla la ilaha illallah. Shalla. السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أكبر الله أكبر. أمر بهذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة الوصيل الفضيل وبعث مقام محمود الذي وعده. We said that when the battle actually took place, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had not reprimanded them, but what's wrong, everyone? Everybody right? He brought the chair. So he says that in regards to what took place with the battle of Hunayn, they said the statement لَن نَغْلِبَ الْيَوْمَ مِنْ قِلَّةٍ, that we will not be defeated due to a small number, because they were amazed at the quantity that they had in that particular time, right, everyone? They were amazed at the quantity and the people and how many numbers they had. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed an ayah, basically giving them the reminder that victory comes from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, and likewise one should never be rejoiceful over the numbers and the quantity that they have. Rather, number one, that we know that victory comes for the initial key ingredient towards victory is, number one, that one directs and ties his heart in with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not to be tied in with an idol or tied in with yourself, of you being the reason for the cause of victory. Not due to one's strength or might, or not due to any idol, excuse me everyone, or due to some outside element or anything that's tied in with the creation. Rather, victory only comes from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, directly. Until Allah wa ta'ala had sent down this ayah, reminded them this matter. Alhamdulillah. Reminding them of this matter, and admonishing them. Until it says in his book, subhanahu jalla sha'nu, it says, وَيَوْمَ حُنَيْنَ إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ وَلَنْ تُغْنِي عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ ثُمَّ وَلَّيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ. To the end of the ayah. It says on the day of Hunayn, إِذْ أَعْجَبَتْكُمْ كَثْرَتُكُمْ فَلَمْ تُغْنِي عَنْكُمْ شَيْئًا. He says on the day of Hunayn, he says that you were amazed at your kathra, at the abundance of your numbers. You understand, everyone? That you were amazed at the abundance of your numbers, and it did not benefit you anything at the least. Until Allah Ta'ala has said to them at the end of the ayah, He says, وَضَاقَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْأَرْضُ بِمَا رَحُبَتْ ثُمَّ وَلَّيْتُمْ مُدْبِرِينَ. He says in the end of the ayah, He said that the earth became constricted with what was around you. He says, and also likewise you fleed away, turning and fleeing in the battle. Because like we said, if you look in just to sum up everything, in the battle when it came down in order to start the battle, there was a particular inhidar or nuzul when they came down, until when they came down, the enemy was actually hiding and waiting for them. They waited until the Muslims, as a result of it, had dispersed, separated. Until Allah Ta'ala sent down the Sakina, everyone fled except who? The Messenger of Allah himself. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Messenger of Allah stayed, and a couple of the companions, until we knew that the battle had as at first it was against the Muslims, and then it turned back to to be for them. But in the beginning, if you'll find in the battle, that they were coming down a little bit of a dissension or a hill, in which, like we said, that the enemy at the bottom of it was waiting for him and hiding for him. And as a result of it, the Muslims had fell into a little trap, and then they dispersed, fleeing away, until Allah Ta'ala has sent down His Sakina, the tranquility and serenity, to His Messenger sallallahu, and he stayed alayhi salatu wasalam firm. And those who also likewise from the Sahaba likewise who remained with him, until the battle had turned for the better. After in the beginning it was turning for the worse. At any rate, the occasion of this battle, you'll find is connected to the hadith. It's in your books. When they was on their way to the battle, those who are new to Islam have requested a particular request. That correct request is here in this narration. Listen to what they said. He said, we left out with the message of Allah to Hunayn. We just left off disbelief, meaning we just became Muslim. We were new shahadas, for lack of better words. We just became a new Muslim. We just left off kufr, and the mushrikeen, they had a sidra. They had like a tree, or a lotus tree, that they used to hang their weapons upon. They used to hang it, and, they used to be devoted to it, and they used to hang it. They used to be devoted towards worshiping it, seeking blessing from it, and they also used to what? Hang their weapons on it. So when they used to hang their weapons to the point where they even gave it a name, it was called Dhatu Anwat. Dhatu Anwat. It was a name in which, for lack of better words, it means something that it has in which something that's hung on it, or literally if you want to say, the possessor of what things are attached to. Literally. Because the word manalt in the Arabic language is like some type of something that you hang, or something that you put, or you connect it with, or you attach it to, or hang it. But at any rate, Dhatu Anwat was the name of this tree, in which the mushrikeen, the polytheists, had tied their weapons to, seeking blessing by it, and hoping that it will bless them in their endeavors or any type of need they may have, especially in battles. And other things they used to what? Hope, due to them hanging their weapons on this tree, that it will give them some type of blessing, or bless them some type of way, by them hanging this, or their weapons on the tree. So, when the companions have seen this, that the mushrikeen had actually did this, where they hung their trees, their weapons on the tree, it says, O Messenger of Allah, make for us the same Dhatu Anwat, just as they had the what? Just as they have a Dhatu Anwat. Meaning, allow us to what? Hang our weapons on the tree, and inshallah by it, we hope that maybe perhaps we will attain some type of success or blessing, where as a result of it we will attain some type of barakah. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had what? Said Allahu Akbar, saying that this affair is tremendous that you ask. And he was also amazed, and the Messenger of Allah did not rejoice over this. Rather, he became upset. He said, Allahu Akbar inna his sunan. Verily is the ways, I swear by the one whose soul is in his hand. He says, just as the people of Bani Israel, that the people who follow Musa said to Musa, make for us a deity just as they have a deity. Until the point where Musa said, verily you are people that are ignorant. طيب. When the Messenger of Allah ﷺ heard this from them, they just merely asked. It was just a what? It was a request. Did they do it? That's the question. Did they hang the weapons on the tree or not? They didn't. Keep that in mind, because it's something I wanted to speak about as it's going to come in the Masail. They did not do it. Keep that in mind. They did not do it at all. So, this particular tree that they used to be devoted towards it, they used to also establish this place as a place of devout worship towards it. So the mushrikeen would seek blessing by this tree, and they would glorify it. وَكَانَ يُنَاطُ بِهَا السِّلَاحِ فَسُمِّيَتْ ذَاتُ أَنْوَاطٍ وَكَانَتْ تُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. You find there's a narration on Amr ibn Abdullah ibn, I think it's Amr ibn al-As. There's a narration of the Sahabi Amr ibn al-As where it says, كَانَ يُنَاطُ بِهَا السِّلَاحِ فَسُمِّيَتْ ذَاتُ أَنْوَاطٍ وَكَانَتْ تُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. The Amr ibn al-As, he said that this tree that the weapons used to be hung on it. They used to hang their weapons on it until they called it Dhatu Anwat, and it used to be worshipped besides Allah. So, that the worship that the mushrikeen that they were doing was three affairs. Number one, they were glorifying it, they were devoted towards it, and they were seeking blessing by it. So number one, they were glorifying it, they were also devoted towards it as far as worship, and they used to also seek blessing by it. So all three of these affairs, which came as a result of it, is in regards to what the great Imam had wrote the chapter or the heading of the chapter for. Because it was a what, everyone? It was a tree. So you find that it accurately agrees with the title and the heading of the chapter, in which he said that tabarruk, or seeking blessing with a tree or rock or anything similar to it, is polytheism. So this hadith is talking about the tree in which they used to hang their weapons upon, until, like we said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had admonished them and also likewise reprimanded them for this request. But the three affairs of what the mushrikeen used to do with this tree, like we just said, glorify it, devote towards worshiping it, and seeking blessing by it. So if you go back to the heading of the chapter, it agrees exactly what we're speaking about. So, when they said, oh Messenger, I'm sorry, Amir, you want to say something? Oh, okay. So, in this regard, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said, Dhatu Anwat, فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم Allahu Akbar. So we glorified Allah, praise Him, and also raise Him above this type of request, which is in it polytheism. So this type of request was a polytheistic type of what? Request. We're going to speak about how the Kibar al-Sahaba, who are with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ for a long time, and who came from the Sabiqun al-Awwalun, from the first and foremost, from the Sahaba, you'll find, like we said, due to them having knowledge of these matters, they would never ask the Messenger of Allah ﷺ this type of request. But the Sahaba here were what? Were new. So, a certain type of knowledge that is very detrimental, very important, of the utmost importance, right, everyone? Even was hidden from them, even though they were Sahaba. Even though they were what? Sahaba, companions of the Messenger of Allah. Knowledge was hidden from them in this particular instance. Why? Due to the fact they just left off kufr. And they were new to what? To Islam. If this is the case for some of the Sahaba, they're the most smartest of people, and they're most intelligent and the most pious, they are able now for knowledge to be what? Hidden from them. Then what about people who come after them? Especially affairs of Tawheed and Shirk that was hidden from some of the Sahaba here, which they did not have knowledge of, due to the fact that they just left off disbelief. Tayyib. We'll talk about how these type of matters which we're discussing are very important, because this type of knowledge was hidden from them, and they were companions of the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. Tayyib. So if you notice in the context, when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, verily it is the ways, just as Bani Israel had asked Musa. So the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, verily it is the ways, inna has sunan. Verily it is the ways, or the methods, or the types, if you want to say, as sunan, or the ways or the practices of, just as Bani Israel had what? Mentioned to Musa, as it says in the ayah, verily. Or ij'al lana, when the followers of Bani Israel, the followers of Musa, said to Musa, make for us a deity just as they have a deity. And as we know, Musa had what? Admonished them and said, verily you are people who are what? Ignorant. Which is also similar to the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab himself. As the same thing happened during his call, in which we're doing right now, teaching these books. Before he actually wrote this book, the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab, the same thing happened to him similar in Al-Madinah, where he was taking the ilm from Al-Majma'i and Muhammad Hayat al-Sindi. As we know, when he went to Al-Madinah, he took from the great scholars of Ahl Ilm, in which was in Al-Madinah, and his name was Al-Majma'i, and the other was Muhammad Hayat al-Sindi. And the people were going to the grave of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they were also likewise directing worship towards it. Until even when Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab said, what is this that they're doing? Directing their worship, going towards it, also likewise seeking blessing by it, until even those scholars have said to Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab the same ayat that I'm saying here, which is mentioned in the hadith, as Majma'i and Muhammad Hayat al-Sindi. He said, هَؤُلَاءِ مُتَبَّرٌ مَا هُمْ فِيهِ وَبَاطِنُ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. He said, these is just as what Musa said in the same ayah in the context here. He said, this in which they're doing right now is similar to what Musa had Bani Israel had asked Musa, is the same thing that the Muslims were doing during the time of Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab with the grave of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to let you know that the Muslims were what? Doing something that was incorrect, even though they were what? Even though they were Muslim. So now in this regard, when the ayah that you see, in which the great Imam, Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, that he put in this particular context, when Musa had said to them, make for us that deity just as they have those deities. Now let's now go back to what the Sahaba has said. Make for us the Dhatu Anwat, just as they have a what? Dhatu Anwat. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, verily you're going to take on the ways of those who preceded you from before, who are the Jews and Christians. And we'll talk about, inshallah, Rome and Persia. So we're going to talk about, inshallah, in which also Shaykh al-Islam had mentioned in his book, اقتضاء الصراط المستقيم في مخالفة أصحاب الجحيم. The book called The Obligation of Sticking to the Correct Path, or the Straight Path, by opposing the inhabitants of hell. By opposing the inhabitants of hell. You'll notice that he mentioned in that book of who the Muslims will imitate. And they're not just the Jews and the Christians. There's also a narration where he talks about how the Messenger of Allah said they will also resume, from his ummah that will also resume, or resemble, they will resemble Persia and Rome. So it's not just the Jews and the Christians, but it's also likewise what? Persia and Rome. You will also resemble them. There's a narration in which, like we said, that was mentioned in that particular book. Also, Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab has summarized that book, Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim. Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim, that particular book, was summarized by the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab until it was called Masail al-Jahiliyyah. Masail al-Jahiliyyah is the summarized version of Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim. The obligation of sticking to the correct path by opposing the inhabitants of hell by Shaykh al-Islam. That book was summarized by Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab also. It was called Masail al-Jahiliyyah. Also Masail al-Jahiliyyah, you'll find the same narration, which we'll find that Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab used in this particular book, Kitaab At-Tawheed. So when the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had mentioned this, and he said, I swear by this one, you said, I swear by this one whose soul is in his hand, just as Bani Israel has said to Musa. Listen to what the great Imam Sheikh Muhammad Salih al-Uthaymeen mentioned in this regard. He says, إن الرسول قال ما قاله الصحابة رضي الله عنهم على ما قاله بنو إسرائيل لموسى حين قالوا اجعل لنا تنين آية فأنتم طلبتم ذات أنواط كما أن لهؤلاء المشركين ذات أنواط. He says, you'll find that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said exactly what they did was similar to what Banu Israel said to Musa when they said, make for us a deity just as they have those deities. For verily you requested of that to Anwat, just as the Mushrikeen had what? Also likewise had already embarked upon its worship when they had the that to Anwat. When the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had mentioned it, said, I swear by the soul, or the one whose soul is in his hand, or my soul is in his hand. Not from the aspect of the one who gives, or if you want to say, from min jihati imatatiha wa ihya'iha fahasab, بل من جهة تدبيرها وتصريفها. As far as when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, the one whose soul is in his hand, meaning not only just from the aspect of the one who could give life to him or give death to him, or to give life to his soul or give death to his soul, and that's it. Rather also likewise from the aspect of the one who administrates his affairs and the one who can direct him towards what is good, or he has the ability to, or he is able to allow one to also fall into misguidance. See, ultimately these affairs go back to him, because we know that there's nothing that's crawling on the earth except Allah is taking it by its forelock. Meaning at any given time, Allah Ta'ala can allow one to be guided, or He can allow one to be what? In a state of misguidance. Because everything He's created, everything that He Ta'ala has created, all of it is in the hand of His forelock, in which, like we said, He can open the eyes of a person with insight, or shut it and make it sealed so he does not understand anything. So when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said, you will follow the ways of what? Of those who preceded you. You're going to do similar to what they did. And you're going to say similar to their statements. But however, was the Messenger of Allah saying it in a manner to say, for example, do it, or to warn them against it? Which one was it? You're going to do such and such, meaning go ahead and do it? No, abstain from it. Do not do it. Because anything what was a warning for them is a warning for us. Not to fall into what they fell into. طيب. So now we're going to get into the masail. This is what I wanted to speak about. Read the masail for me, Jamal. Read it for me.
Number 1, the explanation of the ayat in Surah Al-Najm.
Alhamdulillah, we already talked about that. What's the next one?
Being aware of the gist of the matter that they sought.
Say it again.
Being aware of the gist of the matter that they sought.
The gist, the gist. Oh, the gist. The gist. Notice that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ has said, similar to what Bani Israel asked Musa when he informed them of that. Go back to what the companions had did. They just merely asked that they hang their weapons upon a tree, which they wanted by, which was what? Some type of good or some type of blessing. They wanted some type of what? Blessing by hanging the weapons upon the tree. So they didn't actually want to do what? They didn't actually want to prostrate to it, pray to it, devote worship towards it, meaning seeking its assistance in their lives, or removing some type of good, or attaining some type of benefit, or what have you, or their lives being changed in another direction, or having a child, or old tree, allow me to have children in my life, to the end of it. They didn't want any of that. They just wanted mere blessing by it. So which came as a result of it, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, that this type of request is polytheism. This type of request of what in this act, if you do it, is polytheism. Is it from that now, from more minor polytheism or major polytheism? Is it from major or minor? We're going to talk about that in a minute. طيب. Second, keep reading.
What they requested was not provided.
What they requested, they didn't do it. Keep it simple. What they requested, they did not do it. Keep that in mind. So it's not, they did not do it at all. They just merely requested, the Messenger of Allah admonished them, that was it. It was done. Fourth.
They sought nearness to Allah by such requests, thinking that He would like that.
Jade. So Say it again.
They sought nearness to Allah by such requests, thinking that He would like them.
طيب. For merely hanging the weapons upon it, or anything similar to that upon a tree, in which the Messenger of Allah sallallahu he had said that they were seeking help or some type of, that they were seeking blessing by this tree. For why they, I don't want to give this away. I want to keep this. I wanted to keep this until a couple of other Messiah. Because if I say this, it's going to be too clear. Just skip it. Just go on to the next one.
That if they were ignorant of this point, then others would be more ignorant about it.
We already discussed that, right, everyone? They said if the Sahaba, this is their affair where they were ignorant of this matter, then others that come after him, meaning not Sahaba, meaning those who come after him. If this is the Sahaba and their high status with us, as we know, are tremendous. The companions of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ have a high status, tremendous. And for that reason, what came as a result of it was what? This request. That none of the Kibar of Sahaba will what? Ask. From those who are from the first and foremost, from the Sahaba. None of them will what? Ask this type of matter because they knew that this matter was something that was polytheism. And they stayed far away from it. But due to some of the Sahaba had lack of knowledge in this matter, they didn't know. So for that reason, it's incumbent upon those who come after them to be diligent in knowledge, because if they weren't aware of something that was polytheism, then what about us? If they wasn't aware, due to the high lofty status that they had, and that they do have, and also likewise the depth knowledge of their understanding with regards to the Arabic language, and even them understanding La ilaha illallah properly. As we know that the Sahaba had tremendous knowledge to the point that La ilaha illallah, when they just heard it, they knew what was binding upon them and what was what. Also what they had to leave off. What they had to do to carry that contract and that testimony out in the purest and best way and best manner, and what they had to abstain from for what would nullify it. And that, despite of that, this particular knowledge was what? Still hidden from them in this particular instance. So despite of that, this is an encouragement for one that comes after them, that they had to be diligent in studying these matters so they don't fall into it. And that's the reason why you'll find that he mentioned this. So he said, even in the great Imam that he said this, he said, فَغَيْرُهُ مِنْ بَابٍ أَوْلَى وَقَصْدُ الْمُؤَلَّ رَحِمَ اللَّهِ بِهَذَا أَلَّا نَغْتَرَّ بِعَمْلِ النَّاسِ لأن عمل الناس قد يكون عن جهل في العبرة بما دل على الشرع لا بعمل الناس. Then he says in the last part here, you'll find the great Imam Ibn Uthaymeen mentioned this regard. He said the Sahaba, he said no doubt they're the most knowledgeable people with the religion of Allah. And if the Sahaba were ignorant here in this particular instance, they didn't have knowledge in this instance, he says that seeking blessing with this was a type of taking something as a deity. He said then other than them is for all the more reason that they can what? Fall into it. He says, so the intent of the mu'allif here is that the people do not be fooled by the actions of the people. Because the actions of the people could be upon ignorance. And we see that widespread, especially when you go to Mecca and Medina. You see all types of weird things being practiced by a lot of people. When you, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, for those who have not performed Umrah or Hajj yet, you will see it with your own eyes when you go there. And it'll blow your mind away. How ignorant that you would think that people already know, but in actuality, they don't know. So, that's the reason why you'll find that this particular matter was mentioned here. Tafadhal, I'm sorry, Jamal.
That they had a good rewards and had the promise of forgiveness, what others do have of this.
Others do have or don't have?
No, do not have.
Oh, do not have. Okay. He said that the Sahaba have of reward and they have of that which is promised of forgiveness, what would not be for other than them. Tayyib. And I think that's clear. Everyone knows about the high status and lofty status of the Sahaba, which we'll, inshallah, talk about when we go to the other books of Aqa'id if we have the time. Tafadhal, I'm sorry.
That the Prophet ﷺ did not excuse them for this. Rather, he rebuked them by saying, Allahu Akbar. This way, this is the way followed by those before you. So by these three statements, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam emphasized the gravity of the matter.
Also, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, what's an important matter I want everyone to be attentive of here is that notice the message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is very important. The message of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not look inside of their niyyah. You'll find that's a methodology of a lot of the different deviant sects in which some of the ignorant Muslims say out of their mouths. You'll find that if they say an action that's wrong, or they do an action that's incorrect, or say an action or say a statement that's incorrect, they say, "Akhi, you don't know what I intended. You don't know my intentions. You don't know what I intended by it." And we know that the Prophet ﷺ, when a person did an act that was incorrect, that was in opposition to the religion, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ did not ask, "What did you intend?" or "What was in your heart?" He didn't look at that whatsoever. Rather, the only thing that he looked at was the action, whether or not it agreed with Allah Ta'ala Shara', with the legislation or not. That's it. He didn't take into consideration nobody's intention. The intention is between you and your Lord. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one that knows the unseen. And it's not for us to now try to pry open the hearts and the chests of the people to know whether or not their intent was what? Good or not. That's not from the minhaj al-salaf. A minhaj al-salafi is that we weigh the actions of the people upon the scales of the Shara', a Kitaab and Sunnah, no more, no less. And from the examples of that is this hadith. You understand, everyone? And I want everybody to write that down. That's very important. And you know I'm a little bit hyped tonight. So I have my vegetables and Wheaties, huh? Back and say I eat my Wheaties today, huh? At any rate, my Wheaties now will probably give you a sugar spike, make you go to sleep. But at any rate, so the other thing in regards to what we just said is what, everyone? That we said that from Minhaj al-Salafi, we do not look inside the intentions of the people. We're not being commanded for that. However, when we command the good and forbid the evil, we do it in a very polite manner. For those who are ignorant and they do not know, and that they might be new to Islam, and that they just came to the da'wah, they just left off being from the deviant sects, from the deviant Muslims, we take that all in consideration. So it's not just you attack, bang, A'udhu billah, you shouldn't have been doing this. Nothing. No, you're not supposed to do it in that manner. Of course, like for some of the brothers I've known for 10, 20 years, I could be harsh towards them. They will understand where I'm coming from. But somebody that's new, or for example, your parents to your son, for example, Abdul Mateen might be hard to his son understands. You understand, it's his son. With certain instance, you can use what? Assertiveness and sternness. But for people who are ignorant, they just came to the da'wah, they just became Muslims, so you see them doing certain acts, don't attack them. A'udhu billah, you shouldn't be doing that. You understand? But however, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, in regards to now, when a person is doing something incorrect, it is from Minhaj al-Salafi that we correct them. And we have not been commanded to what? Look inside the hearts of the people. It's not our place. That's only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah looks inside the niyat to the people. And Allah ta'ala knows the niyat to the people. يَعْلَمُ خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ وَاللَّهُ يَقْضِي بِالْحَقِّ, as Allah ta'ala says in his book. He knows خَائِنَةَ الْأَعْيُنِ وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ. Allah ta'ala knows the treachery of the eyes, and He knows what the chest conceal. So that's with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's His knowledge that He's aware of the niyat to the people, or the nawaya of the people. As for us, then we only been commanded to judge the people's actions based upon what, everyone? In accordance to Kitaab and Sunnah. If the action agrees, then we commend them, we praise them for it, and we ask them Allah to increase them. If it's something that opposes, then we redirect and advise them. And we have not been commanded to what? I'm about to stop. And we have not been commanded to pry open the chest, nor rip open the hearts of the people. As the Prophet ﷺ himself said that. You'll find in the narration where he says, Inni lam u'mar an ashukka an qulub an-nas wa la anqaba sudurahum. was the narration where it says that I have not been commanded to rip open the chest of the people, nor to tear their hearts open to look at it. And you'll find that what? Or as Kama qala Nabi sallallahu, excuse me, so I could be just as the narration says. From the examples of that application is here in this hadith. To the message of Allah sallallahu take consideration their niyyah, and you got to think in their minds, you would think that they intended good by it. Why? Due to the fact that they went out for jihad. They're going out to jihad, expedition, they're risking their lives, they're risking what? That they might be, more than likely, they might lose their lives as a result of trying to fight in the cause of Allah to the end of it. Which shows that the initial intention of what would be an incentive for why they're going out is something good. And despite of that, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ still did not what? Didn't accept it. He only corrected them based upon their action. The action went against the religion. As a result of it, he had to what? Correct it. And he did not look at the intentions of the people. Keep that in mind, because a lot of people like to play those games. You even go to some of those masajid, now, they are first quick to say that. Ya akhi, you don't know my intention. Ya akhi, you don't know my intention. Ya akhi, you don't know my intention. You don't know what I intended by it. And you ask them, how would I know your intention? I can't see your heart. But however, what we've been what? Commanded is to correct and advise and redirect people based upon whether or not your action agrees with Kitaab and Sunnah. No more, no less. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Jay, read the next masala.
The most important matter, and it is the point here, that he, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, told them that they were seeking what the children of Israel sought when they asked Musa to make a God for us.
Say it one more time, sorry, Jamal. We almost finished. We'll do the last three and then we'll stop because we got to pray.
The most important matter, and it is the point here, that he, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam,
you with me, man?
Them that they were seeking what the children of Israel sought when they asked Musa, make a God for us.
You see this similar to they asked for the sidra, that they seek blessing on that tree, just as the mushrikeen used to do. And how the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had considered this matter that was what? Tremendous. Because it was similar to the request of who? Bani Israel. Jayid. The question still remains. Is it polytheism if one now is to seek blessing by a tree or do similar to that? Let's just start off from the beginning. Is merely the request, does a person fall into shirk as the request? Just asking. Make for this wall. Allow me to cling my weapons on that string, because I know that string on that curtain, if I hang my sneakers on there, inshallah bi'idhnillah, I will have, for example, some type of barakah in my job tomorrow. Because I've seen people that every time they hang their sneakers on that clothesline up there, or that line, something happens of good. I just mere ask. I ask and I request it. Alhamdulillah, so I could give an example of this in this room. I ask people, I want to hang my shoes. Similar to what people used to hang their shoes on the lines back in the day. For those who knows exactly what I'm talking about. You know how they used to hang their sneakers on the top of the line, tie their two sneakers and put them on the top of the electric lines at the top? And I don't see still to this day how they used to do it. But they just throw it. I thought they used to climb on the trees and do it. But anyway. So now I do the same thing similar to my shoes. I tie it and I put it right there on top of that string. And I say, make for me, or make for, or let's just say I walk in a room and I see everybody hung their shoes on there. Did the same thing. Make for me or what? Make for that me, just like they did it. I want the same thing. I want the same type of what? Reason for why they're doing it and attain the same benefits. I just merely ask. Does that person now commit a shirk from his request? He committed polytheism? Request. But he didn't do it. Just the statement itself. Think hard. Jayyid. It's about to come. The answer's about to come. طيب. He said that good reply so far. He said that the statement he asked had in the polytheism, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it. Keep in mind that the mu'allif here, because Sheikh Muhammad Aman al-Jami even pointed this out in here. This is something that if a person was just to sit home and read this, he wouldn't be able to be attentive or aware of it. He said that the mu'allif, the author here, he goes to, and I'm going to just leave it off here. However, you'll find that he came back and kind of came behind the author and corrected him a bit. Sheikh Muhammad Aman and Sheikh Hamd Faqih, rahimahullah, corrected Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab in this little particular mas'ala here. Because Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab says that it's from minor polytheism. If he falls into the act. If he falls into the act. Due to the fact, if you look in your books, it says, look at the next one. Look at what it says. Matter of fact, look at 11. Read it. What's it say? Read number 11, we'll stop. That shirk can be of the minor as well as major. As well as major. Read the last part. What does it say? They were not apostates because of this. They were not apostates because of this. They didn't do the action.
So the statement itself was just
the request. They didn't do the action.
So they didn't fall into it.
Now, they didn't fall into the action. However, if a person committed the act, now, he made a statement, said they did not apostate. They did not apostate. طيب, you'll find, and I'm going to read what Sheikh Hamid Faqih says, and I'm going to just keep it right here. Sheikh Hamid Faqih, rahimahullah, he says, يعني أنهم لم يطلبوا منه أن يجعل لهم إلها يعبدونه من دون الله. He said they didn't request that Allah make for them a deity. He says they did not request أن يجعل لهم إلها. They did not request that they make for them a deity. Right, everyone? They just merely asked what? Because we know that the Sahaba were more knowledgeable and were more intellectual as far as their intelligence. More than that. He says merely they just asked for the tree. And that the Prophet ﷺ give them permission to what? To seek blessing by it. And that they hang their weapons upon it. He says without them praying, without them giving sadaqah to it, without them praying towards it, he says, which indicates and clarifies, فَبَيَّنَّهُمْ, the Messenger of Allah has said that this type of request of seeking blessing, even though it's not salah, it is not siyam, and it's not sadaqah, that it is shirk exactly, right everyone? That it is shirk. جيد؟ طيب. وفيه إبطال لشبهة مشركي هذا الزمان وزعمهم أنه يفعلون تبرك. Now this is the last part I want to ask. Now keep this in mind, this statement. Matter of fact, this is not from Sheikh Hamid Faqih, this is from someone else. Now listen to this next statement that he comes up and says, this last part, then we'll close out the lesson. Listen to this last part. ليس ما طلبوه من الشرك الأصغر. So Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab, you was right, Jamal, I was wrong. So it says that Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab saying that what they requested, was it from major polytheism or was it from minor polytheism? What they requested was, what Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahhab says here, was minor polytheism. But in actuality it was what? In actuality what they requested is major. It's major polytheism what they asked, right? طيب. He says, وَلَيْسَ مَا طَلَبُوهُ مِنِ الشِّرْكِ الْأَصْغَرِ. It's not from major polytheism. He said, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْهُ لَمَا جَعَلَهُ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ نَظِيرَ قَالَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. If that was the case in the Message of Allah when they made it similar to what Bani Israel has said. And he also swore upon that. Rather it was from what? Major polytheism. He says, كَمَا أَنَّ مَا طَلَبَهُ بَنُو إِسْرَائِيلَ مِنَ الْأَكْبَرِ. Just similar to what Bani Israel requested was from major polytheism. He says, however, They did not disbelieve because he says, لم يكفروا بطلبهم لأنهم حدثاء عهد بالإسلام. However, they did not disbelieve due to their request, of course. He said they were what? They just left off kufr and they were new to Islam. And also, likewise, they did not do it. They did not do what they had asked or that they would requested. He says, nor did they approach to doing it, nor did they go near it. He says, rather they asked the Messenger of Allah merely, and that was it. Here, Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab makes it from what? Minor. Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad Jami, even Sheikh Hamid Faqih says it, what was asked was major. So what Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab says is what? It's Shirk al-Asghar. Here we came behind him and said it's what? Shirk al-Akbar was requested, what was asked. What was asked. It was major polytheism. Huh? Well, Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad said, he said that Kitaab, Sheikh Muhammad Faqih says excellent, which is clear. He said because if that wasn't the case, then the Messenger of Allah made it similar to Bani Israel, and what they committed was what? Major. Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad was so brought was strong. That was strong. Very strong. Very, very strong. Certain masail, that's what I'm talking about. When you study these books, you compare all the aqwa ahl ilm, you look at it, you study it, you say, these are the reason why you have to listen to ahl ilm. So a person now sitting in his house looking at the book, these type of benefits he wouldn't be able to attain just by reading it. He said, Sheikh Muhammad Ahmad, or Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab said this from this Shirk al-Asghar. He says, also likewise, we can't say whether or not they apostated, did not apostate. He said that's something totally to the side that we can never research due to the fact they never did it. But if they would have did it, that's something else that would have to be looked in because you have to take consideration they just left off kufr. So now another affair kicks in. Are they excused due to ignorance or not? So nothing, but we never reached that level yet. Because they didn't what? They didn't do it. Absolutely. And they don't take into consideration anything. How the Khawarij just absolutely, especially people who are part Haddadiyya in these days and times. Haddadiyya is a fara'. You'll find that the deviant sect, the Haddadis, is a branch of the Khawarij. They're a branch. You'll find that the majority of people that's a part Haddadiyya end up falling into takfir and end up declaring people to be disbelievers or unbelievers. These people are upon the minhaj of Mahmud al-Haddad. Any questions about the lesson? So we stop and we can pray. I made the lesson a little long because I wanted to try to finish the chapter, get close to the end of the chapter. Any questions, Hussein? Any questions? For the absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Exactly. Even though the person fell into it, now getting to the fact that looking to another affair, is he excused due to him being new or not? It's a whole nother issue. Whole nother issue. See, it's kufr. Kufr and shirk. The action you asked, or the action, the statement that you asked to request it was a statement or request of shirk. Is it from minor or major? Sheikh Muhammad Abdul says asghar. We say that it was what? Sheikh Hamid Faqih, Sheikh Muhammad says akbar. Who's you from Islam? To ask that type of what? To ask a request and also do it. Oh, I had a dream about this. And at any rate, That's strange. Yeah, absolutely. That's strange. Anyway, is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? No, I'm serious. Is it clear what I'm saying? We have to follow. No, the request, the statement itself is a statement of major polytheism. That request. Is the person exited the fold of Islam or not? That's something totally different. You understand? But we say that the request that the person made was a request of polytheism. If it's talking about what we're speaking about here, major polytheism. Because the Prophet ﷺ made what they asked, a request of what? Similar to what Bani Israel requested, same thing. However, is the person a kafir or not? That's something different. Because now we have to get into, he just became Muslim, he doesn't have any knowledge, he did not know, he just became Muslim. All those things and probabilities now kick into play. You know what I'm saying? But we still can say that, but we still can say, what everyone? That statement was a statement or a request of shirk, major polytheism. It's that simple. Get it? Is it clear? Amir, he's looking at me like, huh? No, the Messenger of Allah reprimanded them. And he also, yeah, absolutely. He reprimanded them, corrected them. Tell them to clarify that this is a statement. Yeah, he emphasized it. Right. But even though the Messenger of Allah was stern with them in this regard, and he was also assertive, the Sahaba, of course, we know, were men. These days and times, we're not dealing with men here. We're dealing with sensitive people now these days. You understand what I'm saying? America is a people full of sensitive people. Even men. Men down these days can't take nothing. These were men. So Messenger of Allah stern with them, they could take it. Oh, Messenger of Allah. Okay? But now we dealing with people you trying to, this came to fold of Islam. You correct now people these days be ready to cry and complain and spread to the dunya how awful of a person you are and terrible to the end of you and never hear the end of it. You understand? جي هذا وصلى الله وسلم بارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Oh, which